Diana, and
Should I look at you or at the camera?
anyone.
It doesn't matter. Okay.
Yeah. So when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I always wanted to be a writer.
Really?
Yeah.
From like what age?
Really from the time I could pick up a pen. So I don't ever remember a time when there was when I had any other idea. I think, in the way that little kids do, I sort of had phases of thinking I was going to do some other career, but I didn't really quite even know what they meant. Like I remember at one point I thought I would be a marine biologist, but I don't think I really knew what a marine biologist was. I always was writing.
Really? When did you write like your first story that had a beginning and end?
The first, probably way before this, but the first one that I guess is documented was when I was 7. I wrote a story called Shauna and the Magic Quilt. It was 24 pages long, and my mom has it. So,
Where did you grow up?
in Boston, in the suburbs of Boston and Newton.
And what did your parents do for a living?
My dad's a doctor. My mom had her own business, party planning, and has another one that's similar now. So,
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have a younger brother, and I have an older sister, and everyone's in Texas.
Did you have people in your life who wrote for a living when you were a kid?
No. And in fact, it wasn't until I was really an adult that I realized it was something I could do for a living.
Right.
And it wasn't until my senior year of college that I knew I could even go to graduate school for it.
Right.
So I asked one of my professors in college, can I go to graduate school for creative writing? And he said, I don't recommend that. I was a senior at that point, so he said, I don't recommend that. You'll be broke for the rest of your life. I haven't seen your writing. Maybe you're a star, probably not. And I think it's a terrible life,
Wow.
So, but then when he did see my writing, he really became a mentor to me, and he helped me, and I did go to graduate school for creative writing, and and things are okay. So,
where were you in the social pecking order in high school?
the social pecking order. I always assumed I was popular, but maybe I don't know. I guess there's really no way to know that for sure. I had a lot of friends, and I certainly chose social life over school during high school, so I think that always kind of makes you cooler when you're young.
You went to a public school?
I did. I went to public high school.
Was there a particular crowd that you hung out with?
I think I hung out with several different crowds of people. I kind of have always liked all different sorts of people, and throughout my whole life, I've always had lots of different groups of friends, and from all walks of life. I like people quite a bit.
And who was the first person to tell you you're going to be a writer when you grow up?
To tell me.
Meaning in a sense that you do it professionally, not just, you're going to be a writer, but you're going to be a writer when you grow up.
I remember a third grade teacher saying it to me.
Wow.
Maybe that was the first. But actually, it's not really a common thing to have happen. That someone will tell you this is what you're going to do. I definitely had people encourage me enough that it kept me going. But most people think it's a bad idea to do it professionally, which is reasonable. It is kind of a bad idea. I think.
Did you have a lot of doubts about your skills as a writer as a kid, or were you always confident this is...
I was always confident about my skill until I got to grad school. And when I was in grad school, it was really actually kind of a wonderful experience. I was suddenly on the bottom rung, and in college I had won the Creative Writing Award. In high school I had won the Creative Writing Awards. And then here I was in graduate school in one of the best programs in the country. It was the MFA program at the University of Montana, which is an incredible program. And on our first day of workshop, the professor said, "You were all the best in college. Get over it. That's why you're here." And it was true. I was suddenly I was in school with writers. I was in school with really talented writers, you know, and I've seen several of my friends from that time in my life really succeed. So it was pretty amazing and humbling. And I also went right out of college, so I was younger than everybody else, or I was younger than a lot of the people there. And I felt suddenly very self-conscious about not being well read enough, and just sort of about my lack of life experience, you know, which you need in order to write anything of substance. So it wasn't until then that I really started to doubt my skill, and once I started to doubt my skill, I really started to work at it. And I think that was really when I became a writer, was when I was a graduate student. It became incredibly serious to me. I realized it was a very serious artistic pursuit, and if you don't treat it as such, you're not going to get very far. So,
how is your writing different from, say, high school?
Oh, it's very different from high school. I would say I learned most of what I learned about writing when I was a graduate student. So I would say, you know, if I had to look at my writing from high school, I would cringe. It's completely untrained. And, you know, it's a craft. You have to hone it. You have to learn the rules and then break them if you choose to, but you have to know what they are. You have to read, actually in high school, you know, you sort of read the literary canon. There are all these authors that you're supposed to read when you're in English class in high school. Well, when you get to an MFA program, there's a creative writers canon. It's totally different. So having read Huck Finn did nothing for me as a writer, you know. It was learning about all these sort of writers that made me a better writer, like Lori Moore, for example. You know, you don't read Lori Moore in high school.
I was talking to a PhD student in English at UCLA the other day, and I asked her who her favorite writer was, and she said Lori Moore. So this is the first time I've ever heard of Lori Moore. So.
And now you're hearing about her twice.
Yeah.
I recommend Self-Help if you want to read a good Lori Moore book.
Okay, if they just meant you recommended Self-Help to me in general.
Well, I don't know you well enough for that. Maybe.
Right, therapy. Is there a different way that you write your sentences now compared to high school? Like, I'm digging for, I don't know if it's even possible to like look at your work. How specifically would it be different?
Yeah, on the sentence level, I would say I had a professor in grad school, the writer Paget Powell, who is often referred to as a writer's writer. He's incredible, and he used to tell us, he used to warn us against using what he called poetic potatoes. So basically, don't show off. You know, prose is supposed to be clear. What I always tell my writing students is that writing is first and foremost a form of communication, and if you're not clear in your writing, then you're not getting your point across. Then you're not holding your reader. Then you're not doing your job. So don't show off. Say what you mean, you know, and don't just don't try to show off your chops just to look poetic or whatever, because it doesn't usually sound good.
When you read your stuff from high school, what jumps out to you?
That I was writing a lot of death poetry, and I had no idea what I was talking about. That jumps out at me. I cringe. Try not to look at it too often, you know.
Where does your urge to write come from?
My urge? That I don't know. I don't. It's always been there.
Well, for some of us, it's frustration with real life, but that's not it.
You know, I would say at one point it might have struck me as something cathartic, like you're saying, but to me it's sort of like, in a way, it's like people who start taking drugs, okay? So they take drugs to feel a certain way. And then after a while, they have to take the drugs so that they don't feel bad. You know, it's not, I'm taking them to feel good, it's I'm taking them so I don't feel bad. And I think in a way writing is like that for me now. It's when I'm not writing, I feel very off kilter. Right now I'm not writing because I'm on book tour and I don't have structure in my life right now. So I'm not writing as much as I should be, or the things that I'm writing aren't really what I want to be working on. So